classes. I'm not going to identify each class. I'm just going to tell you what the names are. There's cultivators, manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, retailers, and delivery services. I'm going to focus for a second on delivery services. Delivery services, the one thing that the town can't do is it can't prohibit delivery of cannabis, of otherwise lawful cannabis products within the town. That's not something that it can prohibit, but it can prohibit the facilities that might otherwise wish to locate in town that I described previously: the cultivators, manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, etc. If the town, like as I mentioned, if the town doesn't act to prohibit everything, then these facilities will be deemed to be permitted within the industrial zone, and the town won't be able to act again to implement any prohibitions for 5 years from mid-August. And at that time, 5 years from now, the town, I believe, would have, I think it's 6 months, 180 days to act. So there'll be this narrow window 5 years from now to then decide whether or not to prohibit. If the town were to decide to prohibit in its entirety these particular types of businesses before the deadline in August, and this of course is by way of ordinance, then the town could, and this is what some towns are doing, the town at any later date could seek to amend the ordinance, amend the township code to permit certain types of businesses. Some towns are doing that, and they're doing that on the basis that the regulations have not yet been adopted here within the state. This is kind of a new creature, so to speak, and some towns are just sort of opting to prohibit it now and then wait to see how things develop, whether it's how they develop in other areas where the facilities are permitted to locate, or just to see what the regulations are going to look like and how it might impact those particular municipalities. That's what some towns are doing. On the other hand, the town can act now, not to prohibit, but to determine, to allow these facilities to locate here in the town. And it's not an all or nothing option. The town can decide of all of those that I described, except for the actual deliveries that could be made within the town. If the town were to decide, it could decide that any one of those types of facilities is permitted, but the rest are prohibited. The town can also decide, and the town, when doing so, can decide which zones. It's a zoning issue. Which zones it would be considered a permitted or conditional use. In addition, the town can determine for each type of facility how many licenses would be permitted to be located within the township. So I'm just throwing out random numbers here. So if the town decided, okay, well, we'll allow one cultivator in this zone and only this zone, and none anywhere else in the town, but will permit 2 wholesalers and 4 retailers, or any of the above or none of the above. There's a lot of flexibility that the town has from a zoning standpoint, from a planning standpoint, if it wishes to permit the sale in some way, shape, or form, and for these businesses to operate in some shape or form. There's quite a bit of flexibility in approaches, so that it can be tailored to the needs and to the characteristics of the township. And there's really no necessarily any cookie, other than a complete prohibition. There's no cookie cutter approach. It's really different for each town. As I said, there's also the limit on the number of licenses. There's also some local regulation that the town can implement. Some of it, and it's limited in some ways because, frankly, the state is going to be handling all of the requirements for licensing. Who gets a license and who doesn't? That's not going to be a local level determination. And the state is also going to be dealing with things like packaging, manufacturing requirements, advertising requirements, just various other components of how the sort of the industry will be operating within the state. But the town can deal with things like hours of operation. The town may be able to also deal with things like security restrictions, security for particular types of facilities. I will say that that is also an item that will be subject to state regulation. When those regulations come out, if the town were to act ahead of time, it's possible that if and when regulations were to come out, they could impact the towns and any local restrictions or local requirements for things like security that a town like this town might ordain. So, and that's sort of an asterisk, sort of a caveat for any local regulations, that it is possible that the state could come down and determine that they're going to exclusively regulate that part of the cannabis businesses. But things like hours of operation have already been identified as areas where there will be some local control. And other traditional sort of like zoning and planning issues like signage, building height, all of those types of things are going to remain in local control. When I talked about advertising earlier, that's going to have more to do with the content of advertisements in the cannabis industry, not things like how big the sign will be. So those would most likely remain in local control. The other component that the town would be able to control is whether something's considered a permissible use, just a permissible use in a particular zone, or a conditional use. Conditional use invariably requires planning board approval, and so there's a little bit more control and regulation for those towns that opt to permit cannabis businesses to operate, but to do so only as a conditional use within a particular zone. So that's another component. I think that's kind of a broad, although I did talk quite a bit, that's kind of a broad outline. But hopefully that's enough to stimulate some discussion and or comment, which is the purpose of tonight's meeting.
You said something about the planning board and that. Either we or the state, if it passes, I'm just saying, if we pass it, I think we have to set a precedent, set rules that the planning board should follow in regulating that, right? I mean, that's the way I feel. Eventually, not.
Sorry. Potentially. I mean, as part of, just like you do for other certain types of uses for businesses coming into town, there are some things that you can prescribe by ordinance that sort of that checklist that in order for them to cite in the town, they're going to have to comply with, and sometimes that may require going to the planning board.
Thank you.
Can I circle back to your 5-year? Can I explain that again, please?
So, basically what the statute says is, if a town takes no action.
If a town takes no action.
Takes no action whatsoever, and the only action you can take in this regard is by way of ordinance. So if the town does not adopt an ordinance relating to these newly legalized cannabis facilities, then every one of those municipalities that fail to take action, all of the facilities, and all of those facility types will be considered a permitted use in every industrial zone within those municipalities.
You can't block them for 5 years.
You can't block them. So if you want to, so that's a good way of putting it, committee woman. If you want to block, facilities from coming into the town, you would need outright, right? Under every circumstance, Township would have to take action and have an ordinance in place by August 21st.
August 21st.
That's an ordinance in place. this type of ordinance, because it deals with land use regulation, this type of ordinance that we're talking about would need to go before, would need to be sent to the planning board after first reading, just like any zoning, any type of zoning ordinance, zoning regulation. So that's why there's not a whole lot of time for the town to act. Town really needs to act sometime within the next.
The problem with that is, right now, with the planning board, we don't have a meeting in July, then we have one meeting in August. And I don't know what's the date.
You could meet for a special
Yeah,
session.
you know, now you said we could also regulate, we could say we only want one license in town.
Correct.
And then could we apply for more if, just say, you know, one store opening was good and there was no problems and all that stuff, then could we ask for more?
You could amend, you could amend the ordinance, amend the township code. Yeah, like, so 6 months from now, the first facility, or a year from now,
Yeah.
you get to see how a facility operates and the impact that it's having or not having on the town, and you decide, okay, instead of one, retail outlet retail license will allow, we're gonna up it to 2 licenses that are permitted in the township.
But if you allowed for more, do they if you said we're going to allow 3 of whatever type, because there's all those classes, where's the flexibility in like slowly letting them come if you wanted to, or there is none? Once they're allowed, they're just going to be allowed, because you can't stop, like any other type of business?
No, it's some of this remains to be seen, because you'll be dealing with the state commission, but the licensing will be done at the state level.
Yeah.
But the state, when someone comes in and says, I'd like to get a license for a facility that I plan to open in Springfield, New Jersey, Springfield will then be notified before that license is issued. And Springfield will be able to say, hey, wait a minute, no, we have an ordinance on the books that says we don't allow cultivator facilities, and then the state would take that, there wouldn't be a license issue. But
I'm having trouble articulating. Like if we approved it and said, oh, we're going to allow 3 I'm making it up, 3 wholesalers, does that mean we have to let them come in all at once if people apply, or there's still any way of kind of slowing that, like one comes in and then we have no approval
Is there a
control?
way to stagger them?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know that would be within our control. The town gets to approve of a licensee.
Yeah.
If there's some, but assuming they all meet the criteria.
So it's like every other business, like we can't, yeah.
Right.
Even if you have 700 pizza places, nail salon, you can't.
Are we gonna be able to just say, John wants a license? But
You've been holding out on us?
so, we decide, we think John isn't the right person to have it.
I agree.
Chris is. So, I know he has to go to the state and be investigating and all that other stuff before he gets the license, but will we have a say in, we don't want John, we much rather have Chris?
We don't with any other business, do we? No, so it's the same thing, it's a regular business.
See,
Well, the ABC regulates.
Yeah, but not us,
An alcohol
which we
license.
can't.
There is, the ordinance will establish who the sort of the local approval person or body is. So it's sort of like, trying to think of an example, maybe liquor licenses or other types of licenses. Someone's going to be designated, and the township committee could be the approving entity, but my suspicion is that it's, and I don't know the answer outright. It's going to be more like a first come, first serve. If you submitted your application and you are, and there's no basis in law or local ordinance to prohibit you from citing a facility here, yeah, then you're not going to have a basis to reject them. The possibility of 2 applicants coming in at the exact same time, I don't know how we would resolve that, but we'd have to figure out a mechanism to do so.
Can I ask a question? So if I understand Craig correctly, we've got all, nothing, and everything in between.
Yeah,
Basically.
I mean,
Yes.
we could approve 100 of them, the state could sit there and say, no, you're gonna get 1, or 2, or 3, and
Right. The state is also going to the state will be establishing a statewide number of licenses that they're going to be issued. It's going to be based on market and demand and things like that. And I don't know when that will happen, but so there will be, beyond Springfield's limits, there will be other limits, and they may, those licenses may all get used up before anyone even thinks of siting in Springfield. That is possible. I don't know that anyone has any sense of what those numbers will be, but what the state's going to try to avoid, the state is going to attempt to ensure some success for these facilities so that you don't have 1,000 cultivators when the market can only support 10. So now that's sort of the one end of the spectrum. On the retail end of the spectrum, obviously there'll probably be far more, and I don't know how the state, what formulas they're going to use to determine what those total numbers are going to be. But
Let me just,
putting in limits is smart, I think, especially initially.
let's go to cultivation for a second. I'm going to assume that it's all indoors at this point, that it's all,
That would
we
be
have
my
a-
assumption, that, that we'd be talking about hydroponic or some other indoor methods, just given the climate that we have.
Right.
But those will be regulated by the state. That will be regulated by the state,
so we
most likely.
we don't have to have, green open space for this to be farmed. It can be farmed in an industrial area behind auto land or one of those places. I'm assuming that if that's right,
I think that's a safe assumption for this area, but, I may have spoken, too quickly before. The town may be able to, depending on what the state regulations look like, the town may be able to require that it be indoor, as opposed to
I don't
outdoor.
know if you know this off the top of your head, and it just dawned on me now. It would have been a good thing for to look up. What are the laws pertaining to medicinal and growth? It's probably gonna be similar, you would think. No, I mean,
Currently
like in this regard, like in mass production.
Currently, there is no homegrown allowed.
No, I know, not homegrown. No, I'm saying,
Oh.
we're talking about cultivating. Probably the laws will be the same, whatever they are. So that's been going on for a handful of years. So I don't know why that would change.
Homegrown?
No, cultivating
In
for
terms of-
medicinal
Let's go
dispensaries.
check the place across.
In terms of the
For medicinal, sorry,
manufacturing
medicinal
and cultivation.
It's very limited knowledge on it, but it would be different. The medical industry is not to say that a recreational doesn't have its R&D, but a lot of the medicinal is heavy R&D
Okay.
and pharmaceutical
Okay,
level.
so it might be different.
So it's a little different.
It could be different.
And just different kind of R&D going into it.
Gotcha.
So it
Thank
wouldn't
you.
necessarily, it wouldn't be
So
the
we're not-
same
okay.
people growing, if that's what you were.
No, I'm just, again, I guess I'm not articulate. I was just thinking, we already have medical
but-
dispensaries
Yeah.
that obviously are growing it somewhere.
You-
They're probably growing, wherever the location is, whether it be indoors or outdoors, it's probably going to be similar, because I don't know if there's that much of a difference, but there is maybe more R&D with medical, which makes sense.
It's different, and I recall from, we had a medical, right, present before us, who were hooked up with their own set of growers, I think a place in like Burlington County.
Okay.
So for on the medicinal side of things, there were the alternative treatment centers, and I know we dealt with that issue a little bit when applications were being submitted a couple of years ago. There was a very limited number of licenses issued for that purpose. The township can still regulate the siting of those facilities, including prohibiting the siting of those facilities within town. And, I would recommend that from the zoning component for medicinal be tied into the same set of new code provisions. You wouldn't want, I don't think you would want to regulate one without regulating the other. And when I say regulate, I'm really just talking about the zoning component there.
No, Mr. Pumper.
Do we know what kind of dollars this might generate?
I don't know that, other than looking to outside, states that have done this. I think that's difficult. It's difficult to predict. The town would be entitled, if it adopts an ordinance and chooses to include within that ordinance the ability to collect a portion of the sales. The town could do that. It's the percentages are 1% for I believe it's 1% for wholesalers, and then for the
Yeah,
other
it's in here.
for the other facilities it's 2%, and it's on receipts. So it's 2% of the sales, as opposed to 2% of the profit or 2% of gross revenue.
Retailer takes in.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's certainly not in New Jersey, we don't have it, but there may be, and that's not something that I've researched yet, but there may be some statistics available from other states that are doing it. There might be some projections that were made, by some of the interest groups that helped.
And that money, if anybody asks, goes into general revenues from our standpoint to the town.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions up here, or should we just open up to the public?
Over the public, I think.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to reserve my comments for the end.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions they'd like to call in, or any comments they'd like to call in, the phone number is 973-232-4442. That's 973-232-4442. If the phone is busy, just keep trying back. We're only keeping one line going at a time.
Are we doing question or more just comments? Because we don't really, other than Craig's presentation right now, I don't know if there's anything else that we can answer. So just more comments to see pro.
More comments, right?
Yeah,
If
See how people feel.
yeah.
yeah, I would,
That's it.
you get 3 minutes to kind of talk. I would use your 3 minutes. We should reserve comment to the end and then maybe try to answer at the end
Right.
when somebody's complete.
And again, just so, I don't know if we said this yet, we're not taking any action tonight.
No.
No.
This is just an information session.
Right.
And an opportunity.
Springfield
for
Township
That's what I said.
Okay, I'm going to put you on speakerphone, if you can. Just state your name, your address, and you'll be live to talk. So hold on 1 second, please. Okay, can you hear us? I can. Okay, let me turn the volume up.
All right.
Okay, I need.
You guys hear me okay?
You're perfect. Give me a name and an address.
You got it. Hey, Jason Thomas here. I live at 21 Crest Place in Springfield. I'm the founder of a quality compliance cannabis regulatory company focused on really ensuring that we've got an elevated level of standards, compliance, and public safety at the forefront of the industry. It sounds like there might be still a lot of open questions and even maybe some gaps in what is coming down the pipe. So I just kind of wanted to offer it up. If there's an opportunity to come in and perform like a bit of an educational session for the township committee and for anyone else in the town that's willing to join us, I'd be happy to kind of put something together. I know there's a very short time frame here that you guys are really tracking to, and really just kind of want to raise my hand and say if you guys need any resources or anything, any professionals to come in. There's people in Colorado, like bring over from the West Coast or whatever you guys need to really demonstrate the way this is unfolded in other states. So it's nothing new. It's been around for 25 years, going back to California in 1996. So there's plenty of research out there. There's plenty of case studies, plenty of use cases to really bank on and to rely on for our decision-making processes. So just wanted to offer that up. And thank you for your time.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is your thoughts on the allowing it or not allowing it? What are you thinking? I know what you're thinking, but I want to hear you say it.
No, I think we should allow it. One road that I don't think we should have anything on is Mountain Ave, just because it's where all the kids hang out. I think the new development on Morris Ave is perfect. I think there's an opportunity to go for wholesale. You have the 6 different classes there, right? Retail, wholesale, distributor, cultivation, manufacturing. I think there's a great opportunity to put something down on Route 22 that is more of a distribution model, where we have a kind of a hub and spoke type of effort. But I would also like to see a retail location put into, some of the new downtown development areas. I think would really entice a lot of foot traffic. Again, this is no different than a liquor license being put in. It's no different than Milton's liquor store over there. And after about 12 months of normalizing this, it's going to be no different than anything else you see in New Jersey. So that's it. I'm for it. I thank you guys for your time, and I hope you guys,
Thank
have
you.
all the resources you need to make a
I will be
decision.
reaching out for some info from you. Thank you.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay, Jim. All right, if anybody's got any calls, 973-232-4442. That's 973-232-4442. Anybody in the audience?
Come on up.
Come on up.
It's a long line. Scott Horowitz, 74 Q Drive. I just want to say, I think it's a no-brainer. I think the revenue for the town, everyone complains about taxes. We could get a little more revenue from sales. Could theoretically alleviate taxes. Like you said, if you're not going to allow this, you might as well tell Milton's to close up. It's no different than a liquor store in my mind. So,
Where would you be okay with it?
I'd be okay anywhere. I mean, like I said, you have a liquor store literally an eighth of a mile from here. What's the difference between a liquor store? They sell cigarettes next door at Welsh Farms. There's no difference. It's all anywhere. You can do it anywhere. You have all these new buildings. You don't want to turn away potential business from these new places. I have no problem with being anywhere in town.
Okay. Thank you. Come on up.
I'm gonna guess.
Absolutely opposed to this legislation.
Yes, let's prohibit.
You're very angry to
I'm
be
sure.
here.
I live at 125 Salter Street. I've lived in town my entire life.
And just your name.
Erica Connell. And
I love your name.
Thank you. I'm definitely very pro opening facilities. I'm sure all of you, if not most of you listening, have a drink of choice that you enjoy. Maybe like cigars on occasion. I prefer cannabis. There's no reason that you can go to a liquor store, you can go to convenience store, gas stations, buy nicotine, tobacco, alcohol, all things which have been proven to be deadly, and I can't buy something that's in fact my medicine in the town that I grew up in and lived in my entire life. And just like you said, I'd be fine with it right on Mountain Avenue. You can go across from the high school and buy Delta 8 flower, which is weed's legal cousin through hemp. And there's no reason why I can't walk down Mountain Ave and buy what's my medicine when we have CVS's, Walgreens. And I do believe that delivery should also be allowed because I know a lot of people's concerns were driving under the influence, but that's going to happen whether it's allowed in town, whether it's legal. People are going to drive under the influence. They're going to do it regardless of what the ordinances are. But I think having that delivery service would truly eliminate that factor of getting behind the wheel and under the influence.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. 973-232-4442, 973-232-4442. If anybody has any comments from the audience outside watching.
Yeah. I gotta ask one question when I was
Yep,
mayor. I went to the meetings, because this is when it was first started. And they said that at that time, there's some type of machine, it's gonna be in the police cars, that they will detect if you are impaired from this. I mean, just as alcohol and that.
I don't
I don't know how
think
close it
that's
is.
been perfected yet.
And I know the police were working on it and
Yeah.
they're working with the state. I don't know.
I don't think that's been perfected yet. I think that the only thing they have right now is the eye test and,
The nose test?
yeah, it's a little complicated right now. They have something called a Stagnus test, I believe, and it's,
I don't know if there's
Hard to
data in other states, but I don't know if selling it increases the amount of usage because people are using it whether or not you have a store
yeah,
in your
you're
town.
right.
So, so the same issues are going to exist.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to blow up where a bunch of more people are going to be doing whatever they're doing.
does anybody from any questions at all right now? 973-232-4442.
I ran the timer twice.
Yeah,
Two announcements.
let's talk about it up here. Let's
Mr. Mayor, do you want to close the public comment period
Okay.
before you
Yeah.
discuss it up at the
I
desk?
see no more comments at all, so I'm going to close public comment for right now. I'm going to close public comment for right now, and let's talk about it up here. What do you think, Rich?
Am I going last?
Yep,
All right. I love closing.
I know
it.
you,
Better
I know you
stretch.
do.
I think it's gonna pass. I'd like to know more of the state regulations that they want us to do.
Okay.
That's the one hangup I have. I don't want it on Morris Avenue or Mountain Avenue because they don't want it close to any schools. I don't want it, whatever mileage, we decide on. I mean, that's my thoughts.
So far, yours, no Morris and no Mountain.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be on 22.
Okay.
That's the way I feel. Matter of fact, when we had voted yes on, what's it called, prescriptions.
Medicinal.
Right, you were in charge then, and it was gonna be out by 22.
By Marinos,
Yeah,
yep.
Marina. I mean, I'd much rather have it out that way than anywhere around here. That's the way I feel. I mean, it's,
Okay.
I've pretty much made it publicly clear that I support it. I'm kind of in the ballpark of what was mentioned today, that liquor stores, convenience stores that sell very similar products exist in locations close to where children congregate and walk around. I'm open to it being in other areas, but I was hopeful to maybe hear from the public in regards to location, because I'm open to, if people really feel like it shouldn't be in X, Y, and Z, I'm not gonna be the one to force it in those areas. But the foot traffic argument in a town with a soon-to-be new center of town without a train station, and that is a good argument that foot traffic will come with, retail places like that, so I'm open to zoning, but I understand some people would probably prefer it more in industrial areas.
So you're good with Morris?
Yeah.
Where else? 22?
Yeah, 22 for sure.
Where are you not good with?
I don't think I have a spot specifically that I'm not good with, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
But I'm open if people overwhelmingly did not feel comfortable. I'm not, it's not the hill I'm willing to die on to put it anywhere, but I'm open to pretty much,
So I'll just say okay with Mountain.
yeah.
Okay.
But I can be swayed. If,
I'm going to ride Rich's tails on that one. I think that, I've thought about it over and over. I do acknowledge that it is no different than an alcohol establishment.
honestly, it's almost more like that was said earlier, CVS or Walgreens.
I do get it, and I also agree with our caller's comments about the foot traffic and your comments about the foot traffic on a newly built Morris Avenue, that could it help? Anything could help. But for me as a resident here, first, I am not okay with it on Mountain Avenue, and I'm not okay with it on the Morris corridor. I am the same as Rich. I am good on 22 wherever it could fit in there from border to border, somewhere in that corridor. I am okay with that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm same with Rich. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually disappointed that I was really looking forward to hearing comments tonight from the public, whether they couldn't make it in person or at least on the phone or Facebook, just to really get a sense of where they are in the community, based on how they feel about this. This is an issue that's not going away. It's here. We're being told that we as a committee need to act on this before if we want to do something about it, and I would have loved to hear from more residents about how they feel, because this is certainly a subject that impacts everyone. I have gone back and forth about Route 22, Morris Avenue, Mountain Avenue, and things of that nature, and the dangers and the safeties. I too agree, as do, with my colleagues up here, that I don't see it any different as cigarettes or alcohol or things of that nature. At one hand I say, okay, Route 22, but, Route 22 has more traffic, has cars that go faster than they would in town. So is that really the answer? You know, but then I think, okay, well, if we don't have it in town, then, you know, residents are gonna have to pass through our town anyway, so is that is that revenue that we might be losing because they have to go on 22? I also fear that with our redevelopment, both now and in the future, you know, if we have another situation where we have half a downtown like we do now, meaning one half is developed and one half is in construction, and the half of the downtown that is fully erected has a dispensary there, what kind of optic does that serve? So I've been back and forth on a lot of different things, but I after hearing the residents tonight and hearing my colleagues, to start, I would like to see it also on Route 22 to begin with, as a wait and see.
I agree with you on to start, because we don't know.
Yeah, I just,
do agree
to start, you know, like anything else, you know, this is a change. I think change has to go slow. And if we could start on Route 22 and go from there, I would have no problem exploring it after that. But I think as a start, we should, if we decide to do this, it should be on Route 22 to begin. Sorry, and I'm sorry that I took a while for that, but, it was important for me as a member of the community and both as a representative of the township to just let you know about this decision and the back and forth that I've had on it. And, you know, I've been thinking about it for a while, and, you know, I'm really trying to figure out how I feel, and that's the best way I could describe it. So thank you very much for putting up with me and my description.
You're a no on Morris, a no on Mountain, definitely.
Correct.
To start.
To start.
To start.
But I
Start.
agree, I do agree with you, you know.
Start. Deputy Mayor.
Who's keeping the time? 3-minute limit.
Wait,
No, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
no,
I apologize.
hang tight, let us finish there. I'll circle back around to more public comment. I won't leave you out. We'll take all the comments we can get right now.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Chris, you didn't take any time. Are you kidding?
No, it's tough. I mean, I struggle with this.
No,
and
no,
I don't
no,
think it's
no,
up you, but
so my point is, you're all gonna listen to me pontificate for a few moments. We kept tally, right? I think there was 3 in favor and 0 nay. It was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a different turnout from the crowd. But just so everybody knows, and just to set some facts, because I think there's a lot of people listening that might still be hesitant. So where we are as a state. 2020, we passed this. This wasn't like any other normal question, which might have passed with a 50%. This passed with a 67% approval. 67%. Imagine that in this United States right now. There is nothing that we as a country agree on 67%.
Puppies.
Our U.S. Senate
Puppies
can't get an
eating
act
Tom Brady.
together to pass an infrastructure bill. But marijuana gets 67% in our state. That's not just Democrats. That's not just Republicans, and that's not just independents. That's everybody. That's overwhelmingly. Every county passed it. I don't think there's a ballot measure in my lifetime that received support from every county. And the numbers are a little skewed because it was during a pandemic, so the county clerks didn't break it down by towns and districts like they normally do. But I believe it was North Jersey that did some analysis, the paper up there, and found, I think there was 3 towns that may have voted against it. 2 of which I don't even consider a town. They have less than 50% population. The other one is Lakewood. 565 municipalities. 3 towns voted it down. That's showing you what the people want. Now we're seeing here a lot of our neighbors, towns I disagree with, prohibiting it outright. They might be saying, hey, the regulation ain't there from the state, so we're not gonna do it, and we're gonna let 5 years bypass, you know, we'll tackle this in the future. In 5 years, imagine the money that we're going to lose out on. Imagine what opportunities we're giving up. Let's be at the forefront of anything. 100 years ago, our nation was going through a similar crisis that we are now, right? We're facing the toughest crisis that we're just emerging out of an economic catastrophe, the likes of which our generation has never seen. 100-something years ago, our nation was going through the same thing with the Great Depression. Prior to the Great Depression, we banned alcohol sales. Do anybody up here want to give throw out a figure of what our nation lost during that 13-year time, during our toughest economic? I bet none of you could get it.
1 million.
$11 billion. The nation forfeited.
In this time money or that?
No, in that money that they forfeited during Prohibition, during the toughest part in our nation's history. FDR comes in and, of course, says, we're going to reverse that. We need that tax money to help us regenerate, to help us move forward, to help our unemployed. Well, let me tell you, what are we going to do now? We are facing the same thing. It wasn't the only thing that got us out of the Great Depression, no, but it was a jolt needed. That tax revenue then was a jolt needed to our economy, and it's the same thing we need now. Somebody asked numbers. Well, currently, guess how many people are currently employed by marijuana industry in our United States? It's 250,000 numbers. That's 4 times the amount of coal miners in our country right now are employed by a marijuana industry. That's estimated to grow to 1.6 million jobs. Those are jobs that aren't just retail. Those are high-paying, innovative jobs, people doing research, people coming up with different strains, marketing. Those are good-paying jobs. This is an economic boost.
Dominoes.
The revenue that it is anticipated to bring in by I think in 5 years, is roughly $130 billion. Are we going to, as a nation, throw that out? No, we're not. New Jersey, we're the 12th state to legalize it. It's the smart thing to do. That $130 billion, that's $1 for every customer that bought. That's injecting $2.50 into an economy, most of it at the local level, through tax, through jobs, through innovation. That's why I'm for bringing it in now. That's why I'm not for waiting 5 years, because that's the money that we could be leaving on the table. So, hey, I get everybody, we'll figure out the zoning of where to be. I don't think that's that big of an issue. I personally, more laissez-faire about it. This is a business. Let them operate where they are, but I understand your positions. But as long as we're not prohibiting, I'm fine with that. So with that, I'm in favor of it. I'm glad everybody listened.
That was that. Are you okay with Morrison Mountain?
He just said he's
I
fair about it,
I personally am. I don't, I'm not against it. I think we saw there's two liquor stores basically in our downtown up until the pandemic, one of which has closed. And I think from what you see in other states, they are reputable businesses, nice businesses with security of their own. I know there might be a fear, and I'm surprised this didn't get brought up, dealing with an all-cash business. That's not the case anymore versus when Colorado first started. There's new technology through apps and stuff like that. So I think actually, don't quote me, but I think that actually it's 60 to 40 now of credit card versus 40% in
They're
cash
accepting credit
dollars.
cards? I didn't think they were. I could be
they're-
wrong.
No, technology has allowed it.
Yeah,
So,
no.
yeah.
I thought even, I didn't know if Union, I know somebody that's on medical.
In New Jersey, they don't accept credit cards.
They don't accept credit cards.
It's cash or debit card.
Cash or debit. Oh, cash or debit, okay.
I'll get to you guys in a second.
I didn't.
So let me go back to Rich and Chris.
Yeah.
Morris Avenue is pretty large. You've got several sections of Morris Avenue. Are you void of all Morris Avenue, or, because there are some areas where you go up Morris Avenue, the Dunkin' Donuts area going towards ShopRite, where you have all those,
There's also, there's also, isn't there a school up there? I know there's a summer
But
school
can't we talk
up
about
there.
the zoning later on? We're just Well, we're not even making any decisions tonight.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to get a
I
vibe
just
on
don't
what
want-
everybody's
I-
looking
I just gotta
for.
get to
I think we, in my opinion, as Chris said, start on 22. The parking will be there, everything will be wherever it has to be. And then we can see, progress from there. And maybe we'll decide on 2 licenses and maybe eventually move to Morris Haven. I don't know. But I agree with Chris on starting.
Also, too, not only is it out of town, it also provides a greater opportunity for customers to use the store because of its location,
On 22.
for more revenue.
Yeah, that's not a bad point, you know,
I agree.
the,
And-
the,
and- oh, sorry,
no, the businesses are certainly gonna do, they're not just opening up willy-nilly, they have a business plan and, an analysis, and I'm fairly certain that's what they're probably gonna conclude.
I mean, even with even when we had the municipal presentation last time, and even though it was on Mountain Avenue at the outskirts of
Yeah,
the town, they came in with consultants, architects, security, like they had a multi-pronged presentation.
Yeah,
So
there's
I
time
also
to
agree
figure
with
out
you.
location. We're just, we were trying to get information from the town, but
Right.
Let me ask a question. If we approve one that's gonna be on Route 22, just say, I'm saying 22 because that's where I'm backing it to go.
you want a job? I'll get you a job.
No, can we, remember, I gotta think of it the way I wanna put it.
One
Committee man, if you have, if there's any,
Yeah, I'll call you.
you're welcome to contact me outside of tonight's
You know,
meeting.
to Chris's point before, in disappointed in not people showing, if you still got time, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily coming
Well,
today, but you could email us, we put that out there, we've done that with the pool and stuff, so please, if something that we haven't thought of, or you saw something that we're missing, email us, you know how to call us, you know how to get in contact, so even though we had this today as a starting dialogue, it can continue and people can certainly reach out.
No, you're right.
I really don't think that this is gonna happen. I think it's gonna be over a year before anything's gonna happen. Because before Murphy got elected, I was going to meetings on this. And this is one of his main platforms. And it's taken 4 years to get this far, or 3.5, whatever, if you want to be technical, 3.5 years. So, I mean, it's gonna be a while before this happens. Pop-up store, right?
Nope.
But we only have 2 August ones.
Right.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna open it back up for public comment again. 973-232-4442, 973-232-4442. And I know we have somebody from the audience who wants to come up here and speak.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of procedural order, since we're going to be sort of diverting from the agenda, if you just do a vote, we can do a voice vote, but do a vote on a motion to reopen public
Oh,
comment.
motion to reopen public comment?
Yes.
For
First by Rich.
and if there are any criteria, such as for people that haven't,
Aye.
that arrived but have not spoken yet, and
Okay.
Okay.
We got a motion by Rich
Yeah, and
and a
Alex.
second by Alex. Okay.
Right.
973-232-4442.
You have something?
Want to come up and, we're open now. Come on up. I just need your name and address.
I'm Catalava, 62 Udino.
Oh.
Hi.
Yeah, I know your name.
I am Forrest. C-A-T. Alava, A-L-A-V-A.
Like the floor is lava.
Yeah. I'm for it. I currently work at a dispensary in Woodbridge, and we're also a union in Eatontown. I've worked there for 6 years. I'm for it being out and out anywhere. Like, at least at our place, we've never had problems with kids coming in or any of that. Like, we have security guards and all that stuff. Like, you have to have a card just to even enter the building. The stores would be similar to the threat, like having to be of age to enter the building. No, they don't accept credit cards.
New Jersey cannot accept credit
No,
cards,
they
right?
only accept debit and cash. We have ATMs in the building.
Yeah, but now you said you need an identification to get in. Now, because it's medical, then I could walk in
No, but what, like a driver's license or something? It's like a
driver's
bar.
Yeah,
Yeah, same thing, yeah, like, you would need a license to get liquor out of the liquor store, you know, same thing. And I think also, like, if we educated our kids in town, we opened something, that could be helpful. Like, both I have 2 kids myself. They're both fully educated on cannabis. They understand it's medicine. I mean, I come home, I work on the cultivation end, so I come home smelling every day. So they are very aware.
smile, smile every day.
And yeah, like, I kind of just wanted to offer myself, if you guys have any questions or anything like that too. That's really it.
Good to meet you in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
I am disappointed with the people in this town about not calling in or anything.
There are, I think people are.
Oh, we can give you one more.
My name's Erica, if anybody forgot one thing about there. So I just want to go off things that were said. So I've been in dispensaries from Rhode Island to Canada to California. All of the dispensaries that I have been in, it's not like liquor stores or convenience stores, gas stations where you walk in and the cigarettes and all the alcohol are right there. You walk into a lobby where you have to, I mean, in the medical dispensaries, you have to show your medical cards along with your ID, but in any of the dispensaries I've been in that are recreational, you do have to show your driver's license. And then you have to be buzzed into a locked, secure door where the cannabis is kept. And it's not even out for you to grab, except in, California, Colorado, where it's been there for a while. It's behind the counters, and the bud tenders have to give you the product. And as far as the location, personally, as a resident in town, if it is only on Route 22, I would probably just keep going to Union's Garden State at that point. I'm going to 22. Or I would drive down Springfield Ave to Maplewood, or any other surrounding town that puts one more local to avoid 22. Like I mentioned, there's Krauser's right up the street from Sam Meyer. There's Welsh right across the street from the high school. There's Delta 8 flower. There's CBD vapes. There's nicotine vapes. There's things that are actually harming and killing kids with the whole vape epidemic that we just had in our country. Meanwhile, there's children who are benefiting on the medicinal side who have uncontrollable seizures and are benefiting from cannabis. Like, yes, I know that's different because they need a prescription and whatnot, but it's not, these are secure and regulated places and way more secure than liquor stores. And I guess I can kind of give Mountain Ave somewhat of an exception because there's no liquor store on there. But I think Morris Ave, the development, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
And I do, and I agree with that. Like I said, and she came up and she said before, and I agree with her again, but like anything else, this is new. This is new for us. This is new for our township. This is new for Springfield. And not that it's an idea that I think certainly all of us are positively, thinking positively about this, but it's also a new concept that for this governing body, it sounds like, and for our residents, we need to take slow, because it is a new type of initiative that we're not used to.
You two gentlemen on the side, any comments at all? Anyone want to come up? And you guys, the only two that have not said anything. No comments?
Mr. Bernardo is from my office. I failed to introduce
We
him.
Tell us
made
about working
introduction.
with
You want to
Greg.
tell us how it is working with
Tell
Craig,
how it really
please?
is.
Tell us how it. Tell us how it really.
Oh, man.
I like him.
Is Craig calling you at 2 a.m. with the idea, like, listen, we got to get this done?
And that
Wake up.
sounds like me, stop.
Past midnight, excellent.
Right.
All right, well, I think that, I think it was Alex that said, we're looking forward for emails, calls.
Yeah.
Our emails can all be found on our township website. All 5 of us have our emails.
Yep.
Please email us. We're taking this decision as serious as any other decision we've ever made.
Now, we have a meeting Tuesday, right?
We have a meeting again next Tuesday.
Are we going to have something presented to us, like,
So what's our next step, Craig?
Well, the next step would be for us to sort of synthesize what was presented tonight primarily by the committee members. We'll speak further with the
I'll let you
administration
know if anything happens.
and with
Good luck.
you, Mr. Mayor, and develop a draft ordinance and get that to the governing body. There are some, because of the timing of planning board meetings and things like that, it's not impossible that having a first reading at the next meeting. That's possible, but there are kind of a lot of moving parts. But certainly within the next, I would say, certainly within the next 3 to 5 weeks, an ordinance needs to be introduced, or you go to that default that I mentioned before, which is permitted use for all facilities without restriction on numbers in industrial.
And then we can mold it to what we want?
If you adopt an ordinance
If we do an
before, if we get an ordinance through this governing body before August 21st, and then there's a decision at any time after that, and that's an ordinance, anyway, and then there's a decision at any other time after that to make a change, increase the number.
Change it, okay.
To change, to increase the
so-
zone.
Can
then
we-
that can be
I
done.
can do that then.
Can I make the suggestion, and I'm sorry if I missed this,
No.
can we prepare an ordinance
Yeah.
for review
what we're
for
looking
Tuesday? Yeah?
Well,
Maybe not Tuesday.
But we may be able to do that. I'm
Just,
not
I mean,
going
I'm
to
just saying,
foreclose
just to
that.
start the time, and then we have, then between that
We're
and the
doing a
next
meeting.
meeting to change.
We got a meeting in July, whatever that, and what about August? In August?
August 18th.
I won't be here the 18th.
And we could
I'll call it.
potentially do a special meeting.
Yeah.
The timing of a special meeting would likely need to be the second half of the first week of August.
not,
But the planning board meets August 4th, 2nd, all right. But we should try and get it, if we can pass
right,
Correct.
Tuesday, just a general one,
Yes.
we're,
then we can give it to the planning board and tell them we want them to have a meeting in July, period. Because he can't cancel all the meetings in July.
We can have a draft ordinance circulated to this body, I believe, before Tuesday's meeting.
All right, but then,
Draft. Now, if there are substantial changes that have to be made, then I wouldn't recommend introducing it that night. But we can get the ball rolling, and perhaps we can have it in such a form that it would be ready. But again, we have to interface with the administration with a draft first, as we do with every ordinance. We get it to a point where we can where the administration and your legal counsel can collectively recommend it. So, it'll be tight, but I think it's possible to get a draft.
can we see can you get in touch with other towns
We've been
and find out what,
we've been-
I mean, you know,
we've
this
been
all-
doing-
I don't know.
We've been monitoring what other towns are doing, and like I said, right now, and I mean that almost literally, towns are taking action or getting ready to take action. So every day, there's some, additional ordinances that are out there, and we've taken a comprehensive approach to this. That's why I think that we could have a draft
All right,
that could be circulated. We could.
all right, and then we go to the planning board, okay.
two things. Your guy behind you just sighed like, I'm not gonna sleep all weekend right now.
Oh, did I say we?
All right, he was, as soon as you said possibly by Tuesday, he was like, oh. That's number one. Number two, industrial areas, not to put you on the spot. Do we have how many industrial areas do we actually have right
I
now?
have to check with zoning, I'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay,
Not a problem.
all right,
We have more than I've ever realized.
Yeah,
right,
a lot,
a
that's
lot,
a lot.
I just want to look at it also.
right.
And see what else is there and where it is. and go
Okay,
from there.
please. I think that's important. I think we should all have that information
Good, yeah, that's a
sent
great
to us
idea.
before then. Because if it did go by default, we might look at it and just say, all right, we're okay with this as it is anyway.
Yeah, is
Looking at the zoning map, looking at the
Is there
zoning districts would be a very good idea.
The highway corridor is easy.
Right. I'm just curious to know where else there's maybe one or two poked around or something like that.
Okay, I'll get you some tomorrow.
Now he just really sighed. He's like,
Adjournment.
another thing?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
I said,
All in favor?
oh, what a week.
All in favor?